Hello everybody, welcome to the 5 Minutes PM podcast. Today I'd like to discuss with you how different people see risks in a different way. It's very important to understand that risk is the probability times the impact. So I need to understand that a high probability risk with a high impact has an exposition for me extremely high, and I need to take care of this risk. But the problem now is not to discuss probability times impact. We need to discuss how people see the probability and how people see the impact. It's very important. The people that are analyzing, they have different perceptions. It's different based on their experience, cultural aspects, values, the way that way were raised. It's different. Let's suppose if I was kidnapped, I will see the kidnapping in a different way. If I live in Brazil, I see risk regarding crime and violence in a different way of those living in Norway or those who are living in Asia or those who are living in Africa. So it's very important because maybe for me I see this risk as a high impact risk. But for other people, they don't see that in the same way, based on their cultural aspect, on their values, and in which points they are afraid, their hopes, their emotions. So if I was raised with fear, I will translate this in my risk analysis inside my project. And it's very important to understand that. David Wilson published a very, very good book that I like. For me, it's one of my favorites regarding risk management, called Understanding and Managing the Risk Attitude. He talks exactly what I'm covering in this podcast. In one of his graphs that I like most, they compare the discomfort and comfort based on the risk exposition. So we have in one side what we call the risk paranoid. The risk paranoid is that risk analyzer or the risk group that receive an extremely level of discomfort with a very small exposition. So every minor risk, for them, it's painful. In the other side, we have what we call the risk addicted. Those who are addicted for risk. So they are comfortable even with huge exposition to the threats. In the middle of this, we have what we call the tolerant or the moderate people. So for sure, they go from comfort to discomfort, but not in an extreme way. And it's very important to understand because in our group, we can have someone that is paranoid, the other one that is addicted, some of them that are tolerant, and we need to analyze this group. And for sure, all of you are waiting some answer or some tips in how I can avoid this or how I can make a risk analysis in a better way without being moved, my decision being moved by this kind of extreme environment. So the first, it's group work, teamwork. What do I mean by that? Because if I have, instead of one, I have 5, I have 6, I will have different behaviors and they will in some ways compensate each other. They will say, okay, I'm more paranoid, you are more addicted. So let's try to find a balance on that. So the group I'm not saying that the group will solve the problem, but it's much better than your own perception because we'll have only one life to see and to use it as experience. If you have 5, we have 5 different perceptions. The second that I like very much, mathematical tools. When we try to translate feelings into numbers, sometimes this is not so hard. Sometimes these are extremely hard to do. But if we translate probability, let's turn feelings into mathematics. Let's give you an example. Let's suppose that I have a bag with 5 balls, 3 of them red, 2 of them green. And I want to know what is the probability of putting my hand in the bag and take 1 green. It's 2 under 5. This is mathematics. This is basic statistics. And this will translate. This is not high or low. High or low are much based in feelings. in our experience. Maybe if I'm a risk addicted, I will say, no, this is extremely high. I have 40% of chance. But if I'm a risk paranoid, I will say, this is impossible. So look, so when we use mathematical tools, we can reach the agreement in an easier way. I'm not telling you that this will solve the problem, but it will give us some tools to do that. And the third one, for me, as important as the others, it's discussion, debate. Explain, okay, why do you think this is big, this is a high probability, or this is a low impact? Why? Explain to me what is behind your opinion. What are your feelings and what your conclusions? Why? Ask why and try to reach consensus on why. Bring numbers to the table. Discuss. It's very important to wrap up this podcast. It's very important to understand that risk management is not mathematics. It's not a 100% precise tool, but it's much more than doing nothing. It's much more to have at least a draft map that do not have anything. It's so important to understand this. There is no perfect, because I don't have a crystal ball in my hand that I can imagine figure out the future. The future is something that I do not have control. But doing the proper risk management, working as a team, using software tools, and thinking group, and trying to reach consensus, I will improve my decision process regarding risk management. This is what I like that you keep in your mind this week. So see you next week with another 5 Minutes PM podcast. Thank you.